Nude astrology, and this is a cool video. It's kind of a podcast because I didn't find any nice visuals to show you that I'm sure has no right like credits that I need to use, and I can't show you the beautiful junkyard because it's too dark. Um, but this video is about something. I was just scrolling on Facebook and in one of the groups, support for PTSD and stuff. People were complaining about not having Clonex, like the shortages in Clonex. And Clonex is an anti-anxiety medication that is given to calm people who experience anxiety, CPTSD, and so on and so forth. And that joins to the threat in shortages in epidural, which is actually, epidural is named after the place where you inject it. It's actually what you give to people who are going through labor so that they will have easier labor and they won't feel pain as much. And I was thinking, okay, that's interesting. These two things sum up, and I know Neptune is the ruler, the modern ruler of Pisces, and I have been arguing in favor of modern rulers and traditional rulers. I don't find them necessarily. I don't find them necessarily conflicting, like having two rulers. So Neptune right now is in the last decan of Pisces, which is already ruled by Mars. And Mars is something broken. Neptune is, which is annoying because I have the ascendant in this decan. But Neptune is about a dream, an illusion. It's also about being disillusioned. It's the break of a dream, literally. And Neptune is also medications. Think about, Pisces as Neptune, Pisces as addictions, alcohol, opiates, something to drug you, so something you do to numb the pain. It's the sort of escapism that you do to numb the pain. It's an important escapism. If you think about some of the great movies that we know were made during either the Great Depression or extreme crisis or war, and people were escaping to these types of cultures, they were taking them away from reality, there's a break from a reality that can be actually healing, like the type of dissociation where you do escape into beautiful dreams, that the dream state is actually beautiful for you. And in that way, you escape feeling pain that is difficult for you to digest. But then every dissociation, it protects us for a while, and then there comes a time where we do need to feel, that we do face that which we were numbing earlier, or that which we were avoiding. Those of you that practice Stoicism, wow, this dog is barking loud. I love pets. Then it's just barking so loud. I don't know if you can hear it, but I can hear it. Maybe I'll go someplace else. Um, those of you who practice Stoicism or Taoism probably know about this already, where in the good times you're expected to not to let it overwhelm you, and if you have less than good times, then it is as well expected that you won't push it away. So if something comes, you don't. Oh God, this is so funny. I'm trying to escape the noise, and now there's this. Somebody is yelling at the children with the raggedy. This is my third house, so I have a pet barking, and literally, I think my son squares Mars, or is making a bad aspect to Mars, I don't know. Sun in the third house, and then somebody yells at their children. That's so funny. So go inside. Though I love to look at the view. Oh, it calmed down. Funny. Anyhow, um, so we do need those breaks from reality, but then there comes a time where you don't want to push something away from you because it will come back, and you don't want to grab it too tightly because it will go away from you. It's something that you do desire. So you could say practice of non-attachment, Stoicism, Taoism, all of these talk about the simple thing where you want to be at flow with life rather than going away from something, and then it either haunts you or you need to face it someone, but also not to hold on to something too tightly because that can be taken away from you. And the Neptune Mars is really about that the beautiful dissociation being poof, On the one hand, what we've been doing, what Mars has been doing in Gemini is being the action. If we try to initiate action now with Mars, it might get dissolved, it might get distracted, it might fail, we may lose, okay? If we are trying to fight for something now, we may lose. There are certain things that are better not be done right now. Like I wouldn't instigate any, how do you say, lawsuit right now, for example. I wouldn't initiate any necessarily launching right now because Mars again is stationing retrograde, is again turning into this Neptune square. And for example, I think that the move of Elon Musk purchasing Twitter right now is flaky at best. Like it's not, well, nobody knows, okay, but it's not the end of the story there. So on the one hand, what Mars is doing right now might be ineffective, or it might create a big illusion, or it might be a disillusion or letdown or disappointment, but there can also be a spiritual experience around that, okay? It doesn't mean that the person necessarily loses. You might lose the fight but win the war. Again, because the win that you were trying to achieve, Neptune might take it away from you, but only to show you that something bigger or something better, or the having, even in this lost state, are perhaps more important spiritually for you right now than to win a material, a fight, or to have the winning word or the winning argument. There's something greater than you. Maybe your opinion is not the best right now, and you lose an argument, but it's actually beneficial for you. Because you might have a more spiritual connection or a path to truth that is better than what you cognitively initiated in your action and your words. Another thing that's happening is from the Neptune's perspective, because from the Neptune perspective, Neptune is an illusion of something and Mars is breaking things. Okay? So one remedy for Mars is to have something broken in the area where Mars is. And so Mars has something to fix, something to manage. There's some energy. The energy goes there rather than to go to the person. If the chart allows, if their path allows, yes. But from the Neptune's perspective, Mars bursts a bubble. Mars penetrates the fog, a place that was foggy. And Neptune itself, being in the Mars domain in Pisces, is being where the dream is bursted, broken, disillusioned, um, and now we come to need to face those things that for a while, for as long as it was good for us to, take that numbing injection or pill, that was okay. But now, and this is always, with Neptune, it's always a very spiritual oneness. It's of the oneness, okay? The loss is of the oneness. Now, people are no longer able to rely on numbing the pain, on turning to illusion. And that means a lot of people are going to actually cope with things of Mars that they have been avoiding. Now, this is a very interesting transit because it happens, about a year and a half, 2 years before Neptune moves to Aries, which is Mars ruled. And from that vantage point, and Neptune is going to begin, the first deacon is probably Jupiter, so Neptune is going to begin in a good, happy galore of expansion and optimism. And what is Aries? Okay, it's ruled by Mars, so it's to innovate, to initiate, but it is also combat, it is also battle, it is also great optimism and being impulsive in your actions, that can have both good and bad, consequences. um, and so my concern with Neptune in Aries is ideation of war. The belief that war will solve all of our problems, that war is the way to the spiritual union that we're seeking. Okay, this is very problematic. This is very problematic because when I think about, think about before the Second World War, people thought that the First World War is going to be the war that will end all wars. That's why they went to the First World War. Okay? 2 world wars after their belief that the war will end all wars, um, we're still fighting. And think about Aries' explosive power. It's, in terms of the muscles, think about it as explosive power. It's to ignite something with the belief that we're going to do what needs to be done, and it's going to be over quickly, and then everything is going to be okay. And there's usually pent-up frustration, pent-up, it's a great energy for birth giving because, you push or you allow or you orgasm a baby into life. There is all the myriads of experiences around that. For some people, even the report like the feeling of death, depending on whichever, birth chart. And then there is a baby. So for birth giving, it's excellent. Okay, that there will be something that is alive and you bring something into life. This is a great thing. But when you think that you're going to fight to bring peace, because what comes after Aries is Taurus, peace, literally, um, there can be a misunderstanding of the analogies here. Third generation to the Second World War, we are still dealing with the trauma of that war. No? So there is, it would be a mistake to believe that although there is a reason for war and there is a reason for fighting, and there is a reason for conflict. And Mars has these capacities for a reason. It's there for a reason. If you grow your yards, you want to fight the pests that kill the plants that you eat from. That's Mars thing and Saturn thing, but also that's Mars thing. There is a reason for Mars existence. With Neptune, we can overemphasize that reasoning. And the transit that we have now, that is not talked about any place. Like if you're not a part of groups that use that some of its members use certain pills to calm themselves down or something like that, then you don't hear about it that much. Like I haven't seen that, if I go around Twitter, I haven't seen that being discussed. But this is an issue. And the understanding that it's, the people who survived wars, survived battles, the understanding that you won't always be able to rely on something to numb the pain. And the pill is not always going to be there. And it happens now when we are in a war, is important before Neptune actually enters Aries. Because Neptune is going to enter Aries, and I think it's going to enter Jupiter, naturally a Jupiter decan, so it's going to be expanded and exalted and happy, and there's going to be a great sense of liberation and union and ideology and philosophy, perhaps martial philosophy. Perhaps people can think that we can all be Taoists and Stoicists and we can all learn non-attachment while being completely disillusioned. But what it actually takes to practice this in real life, transit of the Mars square Neptune, and Neptune being in the Mars decan of Pisces, should be more emphasized, should be more discussed. Although I'm speaking, and I know that this is, if me acting from my Mars, speaking this out and reflecting, it might get lost in the air. People might not talk about this. People might not think about this, even though they should. Because this is when, there is something beautiful about the last decan of a sign being ruled by a malefic, because it's when we come to terms with the contraction part of that sign. We want to begin with optimism. We want to begin with expansion. We also want to be able to look at reality and shift and sort between what here is something we can run with to the next sign, and what do we need to leave behind. Okay, Mars is severing ties with something, with our beliefs, with our patterns, with our methods, with our addictions even. So this decan can actually be the breaking of an addiction. It doesn't necessarily have to be a terrible thing. Okay? And Saturn is also, it's ending things. What should come to an end? The contraction part. What should we diminish in our lives? What should we make less in our life? If Mars is severing ties, Saturn might mean that we need less of something. We need to decrease the dosage of what we're doing in this sign with this planet. But Mars is severing ties. It's not decrease. It's severing ties. There's some habits, and it's good because Pisces can also rule addictions. So there are some addictions we can't take with us on our journey as we go to the Aries stage of Neptune in our lives. And if you are this, I suggest you start thinking about, when Neptune was in Pisces, what do you have in Pisces? What do you have that's affecting each and every point in Pisces that could have been affected in the past 14 years? Okay, this could actually mean something beautiful to you. Maybe it was in your seventh house and had relationships that were delusional, but it's not necessarily a pattern that you have, but something that you experienced while Neptune was there and you was exposed to. And now you're leaving some addictions behind, going into your eighth house, which is no less problematic. Okay, so you're leaving, you're cutting ties with some problems to begin a journey with other problems. Um, and it's a good time to sever ties with certain patterns. And if I join the labor is more difficult, um, but also if I join numbing, the decrease or severing ties with certain things that could numb your pain, and the entry of Neptune to Pisces in a Jupiterian, kind of way. Let's just check that it's Jupiterian and I'm not making bullshit. So let's just check this thing. No, it's Mars. No, it's Mars. It's Mars. It's not going to be Jupiterian. That's good. Um, but then this entry to this, you know, to the Mars. um, the Mars of Pisces is very in ties with something. The Mars of Aries is starting a war, is starting a conflict. So if I join these two, if you no longer have the pills that numb your pain, and you can't rely on those pills to numb your pain, and your pain stems from something that needs to be changed, some boundaries that need to be set, but you were avoiding or it was not possible for you to set these boundaries, now you're going to get optimistic about setting these boundaries. But then with Neptune, it's not just optimistic, it can also be delusional. That's the worrying part about this transit. Um, so it's basically meaning that the sects of the people who were in a situation and habits that numb their pain had to sever ties with those habits. And now they have to start other things. There are certain boundaries that need to be set. Okay, for example, if you don't want to be anxious, let's say somebody troubles you, and you keep avoiding conflict, and then you also, you can have a pill that you take if you need to meet them. So you're not that, you're not setting a boundary just yet, but you have to take a pill to relax every time you meet them. So that can make you more able to sustain a certain situation. It can be a workplace, it can be a relationship, it can be whatever. It can make you more able to sustain a certain situation. And now if somebody takes that pill away from you and you still have to meet them, certainly you're going to break free in some way. Either you're going to attack them or set a very clear boundary there. It's like, no, this behavior stops, or you stop, okay? Which can get you in trouble. Um, and or you can alternatively, just break away, as in your fight will be your absence. And this is also Neptune. The absence of me is the fight. You know, the type of, for example, in relationships, there is the people that give people the cold shoulder. I don't remember what it's called, but it's not gray rocking. Gray rocking is actually another tactic, but it's the silent treatment. But this is more like the tactic of Neptune to fight is more like the absence of something is the fight. Okay, so a person can decide that they are absent, perhaps due to an ailment. This can also happen. So a person can actually become ill. You know, if it's in their sixth house, yes, that can be ailment, but or even in the first house. Um, but also it's the absence of something. So they can decide that their way of fighting is like, I'm no longer coming to work. I'm no longer going to school. I'm no longer dating this person. I'm taking me away. Okay, and that's another Mars act very intense. But that can get them into other types of troubles. Okay. So um, that Mars kind of, I'm calling it Mars because it's the Mars decan of Aries, and this is like accentuated Aries. Thinking of having, you know, two, if you, it's like you have an arc, and the arc is made, let's say, of black obsidian. And then you have a segment of the arc which is made of black obsidian. And so you have the black obsidian part of the black obsidian arc. Okay? And then you have, let's say, a rose quartz, and then, you know, a sodalite or whatnot. So that black obsidian, well, let's make it a Mars stone. It's not red jade. What's it called? Jasper, red jasper. Okay, the red jasper segment of the red jasper arc. So you get that Mars thingy, that extra Marsy energy that is the start, the ignition. But then with Neptune, what is Neptune? It's medication. And so if you try to fight, if you try to numb something with medication, now medication is missing. Okay? The absence of medication, we should be prepared, because the type of medication that Neptune deals with is the type that numbs pain. So think about humanitarian aid and no longer serving humanitarian aid, no longer serving numbing or medications, okay, as an act of combat. Okay, it's not all light, it can also be something dark, okay? It's taken something away. But also the people who have combated, let's say, anxiety or pain or whatnot, they might be gone, but also they might take themselves away. They might no longer get to work. They might no longer, have babies. They might no longer date those type of people. They might no longer be in the presence of that trigger of the anxiety, but not from the vantage point of avoiding, but rather from understanding that they remove themselves from the situation as setting a boundary. Thinking about, being with a person who is not benefiting, what people call toxic, to you, and then your removal of yourself of the situation is not avoidance. It's just understanding there is no use in instigating conflict and being a part of conflict. There is no use in that because they thrive on that. So what do? You remove yourself from the situation. And we get to see the joint forces of Mars and Neptune now. We got to see the conjunction, now we get to see the square. And we get to see the square from the triple, right? Retrograde, direct, retrograde, direct motion. So Mars will be squaring another, this is the second time it's going to be squaring Neptune. Now it will be a third time, and then Neptune will move to Aries. So we get the Mars-Neptune, right? Aries, Mars ruled. We get the Mars-Neptune 3 times before Neptune itself moved for a good decade and I don't know how long to Aries. It's something we should, we probably can't adjust ourselves to all the things happening now. Pluto is finishing up in Capricorn, heading to Aquarius. Saturn is heading to Pisces, finishing up with Aquarius. Uranus is making its moves around the Taurus, but it's going to, go to Gemini as well, and all these things happening. Now we had the Cazimi and air sign and not in Scorpio. That's lovely. Something else is happening. Sedna, thank you, Victor, for that. Victor Astrology. Astro Victor, so check his channel, is about to do a webinar about Sedna moving to Gemini. So Sedna takes 4 decades to be in a sign. Sedna moving to Gemini, another 4 decades of something new, something else. Okay, something that we have not experienced, most of us, in our lives. With Sedna, for sure. So we can't adjust ourselves to all the changes coming. But it's important to note them and to be aware. The adjoining of Neptune and Mars is not only weird, but also, think about if I'm into martial arts lately, not surprisingly, but to think about the type of martial arts you learn and you perfect and you this and you that. And as long as this is something that you do in your leisure time, that you get maybe more fit, that you feel a little better, that it numbs your pain in a way, that it's a good outlet for your energies. Now is a great time for doing, punching and stuff. And punching the air and laughing at yourself. I wrote about it, and also on Twitter, that's a great remedy for Mars and Gemini. Laugh about yourself, punch the air, get fit instead of getting mad. But then, how much of those beautiful theories is actually applicable in real life? Think about Mars ruling both Scorpio and Aries. Okay. In Aries, it's the head of the baby that's headstrong, optimistic. I'm going to do it. Act first, think later. It's also the good instinct. Okay? Think it's the baby. It's not as malefic. It can be malefic and destructive because it doesn't know how things act, and it can be over optimistic and self-destructive and also destructive to others with this, explosive anger. It's not Mars in Scorpio. The Mars in Scorpio already knows the drama. It already knows a part of what to expect. It knows things are not going to get easy. It knows that, and therefore it tries to be more strategic. It will not fight immediately, but when it does fight, it understands that it's a survivalistic thing. Mars in Aries thinks that this is the war that will end all wars. Not gonna happen. So now we have this chance to look at the Neptune Mars, knowing that Neptune is going to enter the Mars that thinks that this war is going to end all wars. And therefore it's dangerous. It's dangerous because of its ignorance, not because it's stupid, but because it's ignorant of the harshness of reality. It's very brave, it's very innovative, it has the good instinct, but it doesn't always know what's the next move, and it's not unless your Aries aspects have something to do with your Scorpio aspects, you're probably not, you know, in it to win it on the long run. You win some, you lose some, and that's okay. But when that's on a mundane level, and people can get optimistic about, I'm just going to set this boundary straight and they're going to get it. They're not. Some of them, not always. Um, and, and that's important, especially, for example, there's a lot of the things that people say about also domestic violence even. It's like it takes a while until a person decides that they leave, and then when they leave, then, it's expected that everything will be okay, and now they're outside of it. Everybody who has ever left a toxic situation knows that your leaving is the first step. Okay? It's the first step of your building yourself up. But with Neptune, you might succumb to the feeling that, I've closed the door. I'm thinking about the Great Resignation as well. I've closed the door. I've quit the corporations. I'm going to start a business. And then you understand what actually is the reality of businesses. What is actually happening in entrepreneurship. What is actually like to do something new, to craft something completely new that is yours. There's a reason why you're being optimistic in the beginning. There's a reason why you're being extremely motivated and extremely passionate, because this is the ignition. Okay, the Mars of Aries, the Mars part of Aries is the ignition for the entire run of the zodiac. It's one heck of an ignition. Think about the people who ventured, the gold rush, the people who ventured into the promised land. We're going to get to the promised land. We're going to build something up. You needed that. A lot of people died. A lot of people were gone. But it was definitely needed in history. A baby comes into the world. Okay? A baby comes into the world. It arrives. It's very optimistic for life to be. It's almost fated. Okay, so whatever Neptune is going to do there, it's a necessary ignition, and it's almost fated that you'll be delusional about it because you needed to do that anyway. And, think about if somebody told you, yes, we're building a new country. A lot of you are going to die on the way. They're gonna get malaria. You're gonna have, people betraying each other. You're gonna have all kinds of things. And there's some pieces of gold out there. Most likely, in the long run, people who have the power, the might, will get the power. And come join us. Not much of an opening line. But the Mars is that promised land. The day after the revolution. So, it's also, and I was thinking the French Revolution, because the French Revolution took 300 years. That people forget to mention when they talk about French Revolution and democracy. Those were 300 years. And we need to remember that, but also we also need to, in a way, forget that. The divine remembering and the divine forgetting. Because the divine forgetting allows us to do something that needs to be done, but there is no actual reasoning to be the one that does that. This needs to be done, but there really is no incentive to do so. other than contraction. Okay, you want to believe that you're going somewhere. You're fighting for a reason, you're fighting for a cause. You're achieving something, dreaming very big. Because some of it will come and materialize in your life. It's just that there are parts that, you think about birth giving. People who do give birth to children experience a lot. In the idea, ideally it should be an orgasm, and you should allow yourself to orgasm into, that's the ideal, that's what's supposed to be, and then the oxytocin and the infatuation and the whole beautiful, squirting your life and your baby all with it. That's what it's supposed to be. And it is only shame that is keeping us away from having orgasmic birth. It's true. And then there is reality. On the long run, a lot of people still are happy that they gave birth, are happy to be parents. Some of them aren't. Okay? But that was necessary for life to go on. That was a part of the instinct of continuation, the basic instinct of existing, of starting something new. And you see with the Mars-Neptune square, also it's something, if I think, people were like, oh, Elon Musk bought Twitter and how expected it is, on the one, in the short election that we had. But Mars is still going retrograde. It will still square Neptune. It was squaring Neptune when he bought, okay, it was leaving the square, but it was like, but yet it was fated. There are some things that you just do it. It's not the perfect timing, it's not the perfect consequences, you just do it anyway. Okay, I'm recording this video now. Just do it anyway. And Mars, Neptune, again, whenever an outer planet meets an inner planet, there's something fated that happens. It's manifesting aspect. How will you go about it? How will you respond to that? But something's going to happen. There is a choice between the fated events or how you're going to respond to them, but then something happens. And if it touches your personal chart or your progress chart or your solar return chart, there's a lot of charts. It's probably touching you. It's going to happen. Something's going to happen. And with this transit, we're seeing some manifested themes that are going to usher us into the next transit of an outer planet in a Mars domain. Because remember, when something travels in Aries, it's not only traveling in Aries, it's ruled by Mars, and also where Mars is going to affect it, even if there is no current aspect between them. This is how it's like a neural network, okay? Something activates something that activates something. Okay, so Neptune is going to be in a Mars domain. That means that before we notice where Mars is, we are looking at Aries, at Pisces, at Scorpio as well, because it is ruled by Mars. All are activated. And then there are axes, okay? It's the Pisces Virgo, the Aries Libra, the Scorpio Taurus, two different effects. Not everything is going to be as activated. Then then you have another, let's say, a planet that Neptune hits, another point. And then you have a Mars hitting Neptune, another point. Some planet there in Scorpio, a lesser point. And this is how to think about the network where the lights are being activated. And those lights are being activated to different, some than others. This is how a chart light. And don't forget, you don't only have your natal chart, you have many natal charts, and you have the mundane chart, and then you have progressed charts and solar charts. And if you go Vedic about it, you have the 60 Ds charts, and those are all facets and layers of reality. So I have an upcoming Spirit of Matter episode about biases of scientific research in astrology. And a lot of people are mistaken astrology for, what they use, and then they try to test astrology the way they would test a news article, and not the way you would test an actual field of study with many facets and many parameters and many aspects to it. Um, but that's for another episode. So whenever an outer planet heats an inner planet, we want to pay attention. And when all of those outer planets are about to change sign and they're interacting with the planet of the next sign, think about the Pluto-Saturn conjunction. Yes, it was in Capricorn, but Saturn also rules Aquarius. And we're already seeing things to do with Aquarius. AI stuff, this is scientific, that is scientific, the democration question of science, the boundaries of what is scientific, very Saturn Aquarius. What is science? What is not science? Okay, so we might have been dealing with that in a foolish way, in a quick way, in a swift way, but we will look deeper into it. Planets are going to move to Aquarius as well. And Saturn in Aquarius is reminding us that we know science. It's reminding us that we know when someone makes an epistemic or ontological argument, which methodology is based in inspecting things, looking at things from a different point of view. That is science. Observation in a different way, observation from a different point of view, looking at something in another way that tells us more about what we see. This is why Aquarius can be very tolerant to people they intensely disagree with. So this gradual understanding that things that we have been dismissive of are actually things we need to take into consideration. Yes, astrology is booming. If you ask me, it's also the Saturn in Aquarius. It's also the Pluto in Saturn ruled sign. Yes, Pluto is in Capricorn, but Saturn rules both Capricorn and Aquarius. And so when Saturn, the good and the bad is when Saturn is going to move into Aquarius, it's not like we're done with the Capricorn side of our charts or of the world's chart, because Saturn also rules Capricorn. And the structure within and the structure without. The thesis and the antithesis of something. The hierarchy within anarchy and the anarchy amongst hierarchy. And the darkness and the light of that. What was it that Pluto was exposing in hierarchies? The way people have been anarchic about it, the way people have treated their regime like there is no rulership. Misuse their authority. And what are we angry at when we look at anarchy, the way people are creating hierarchy within it? So Saturn is also the order of things, whether it's in anarchy or in hierarchy. We also need to look at that. That's another point of view. Uranus, again, Uranus is also ruling a sign that is ruled by Saturn's dual rulership. So like with Neptune, we need to look at Jupiter. It's heading towards a Mars sign, so we need to look at Jupiter and Mars. With Uranus, it's heading towards Gemini, then we need to look at Saturn and Mercury. And we need to look at Virgo and Aquarius. And in a way also Capricorn. So this is how to understand the system from a more holistic point of view. And so if we pay attention, we have preparation. If we pay attention, we will see that Mercury has been conjuncting Uranus. And Mercury will be conjuncting Uranus before it moves to Gemini. We'll have something to look at. Mercury is moving quite fast, it's easy. But we have seen that Pluto has been with Saturn. Pluto has been with Saturn. We got notified of another cycle. Mars has been with Neptune. And now Mars is again with Neptune. So when we pay attention to those inner planets, outer planets, outer planets interactions, we get in sort of a preview of a theme that is going to usher us into the next story they're going to make together. What happened when Saturn conjuncted Pluto? What happened when Mars conjuncted and now squares Neptune? What happens with Mercury and Uranus? Pay attention to that when Uranus is still in Taurus, because what's going to happen in Gemini is going to be an emergence of what happened when, of where we ended things in Taurus. It's going to be a contraction there, and I believe it's Saturn ruled or Mars ruled. Getting confused, I think it's Saturn ruled. Either terms and deacons, and they're confusing me. See it? Taurus. Oh, Saturn. Yeah. So the something Uranus is going to enter the domain of Saturn within Venus, and then there's going to be a diminishing of something. And then it's going to venture into Gemini. So we will also be paying attention to what Saturn and Uranus were doing. Naturally, the past 2 years gave us some things that we will take on from, or will not be the basis in a direct way, but this is the cards we have. This is the cards we're dealt with in reality right now, with which we open up the cycle of when Uranus is going to go into Gemini. These are the technological advancements that we have so far. These are the regulations that we made so far. We thought we were going to do, let's say, digital coins as an act of rebellion, and then, there is a conspiration to do a global digital coin regulated by the government. So technology was not that solution. That's what we have now. What are we going to do in Gemini with that? And it's no longer going to be necessarily banking, but it is going to be trade, Mercury. And it is going to be media. And those are the cards we dealt with. So pay attention to those cards that are being dealt with and those cards that are being taken away. So digital coins as an act of rebellion is being taken away from the list of cards that we can claim as our acts of rebellion, as our funding for rebellious resources. now your act of rebellion is going to be ending up with the regime being able to just decide that you can no longer trade, period. Poof. And as we all know, it's not going to be the human traffickers and money launderers that get that being activated against them, unless there was some inner, you know, I wanted to say truth, some inner, inner conflict, inner politics. But in general, so there's a change of power. With Neptune here, what we use to dissociate is being taken away. And for each and every one of us, we need to think what it was. What do we use to numb reality? Especially if it is of Mars nature. Mars nature can also be, psychedelics, poison. Okay, the poison is the medicine. So we look at the poison aspects of medicine. We're both aware of the poison aspects of medicine. We're looking at those medicines that are being taken away. Missing medicine. Oh, that pill that used to calm you and help you sleep. Oh, we ran out. We're sorry. We have one, but it's very addictive, Lori Van. Do you want it? But that might run on too, suddenly. And it is very addictive. So that's the type of things we're dealing with right now. And this is the cards that we're dealt with, that we have in a time of war, and the pills that help you to stay calm are, experiencing shortage. So now do Aries. Okay? So it's not a direct continuation, but it's just an understanding that you get these cards and you're moving to a completely new game. So let's say you had an ace in one game, and this is important because you may have had an ace in one game and you said the goal is to keep the ace. And then there can be two things. One, you kept that ace. You lost everything you had, you kept that ace. Now you're entering a new game. An ace is a useless card. But you gave up 2 diamonds. And oh, the freaking hell, in this game you win with 2 diamonds. But you don't know that. Okay? Because we don't know yet what we'll win when we haven't started the game yet. And they haven't announced the rules yet. We can think, we can speculate, we know what's Aries, we know what's Neptune, but we don't know all the details. Nobody does. That's the beauty and the difficulty of it. Another thing that can happen is that you lost that ace, and you are left with the freaking 2 diamonds. You're like, oh, fuck. I'm the loser. Then you start this new game. And it's not yet clear to you. And you try to give that 2 diamonds away, but you don't know what's going on. And nobody wants to buy that. And you're left with these 2 diamonds, and you say, you know what? I kind of like these 2 diamonds. They don't really have value in the world, but it's a beautiful card. I kind of like it. And then you find out that this card is the winner for your new game. You're like, oh, who would have thought these poor 2 diamonds didn't mean anything previously. But that's what it is. Also, think, it's also like thinking about Venus moving signs. When Venus was, I don't know, in Leo, and you were a geek and nobody noticed you. You're not an actor, you're not a performer, you're not this person who wears their heart on their sleeve. And then Venus moves into Aquarius, and now you're like, you're the big shot. So that what it can feel like. Or alternatively, the Venus moves away from you, from from the sign that you do best in, and now you're no longer that that hot um, in the field. Um, Anything more I have to say about this? Well, frame wars. Think about it. We have Mars in Gemini is definitely frame wars. Mars square Neptune is losing the frame war. What was working for us in the past will need to be revised, will need to be changed. We can't deal the same card. Also, if we are evolving, we have changed. We understand that this card is no longer the necessary card for us to play. And the way we frame things, the concepts that we use, the names we call people, those need to change. So Mars will go direct to square Neptune in the last time, and then go out of Gemini. He'll meet Neptune again, but in the terms of the Gemini, Pisces will be left with certain sort of cards. Those are the cards. Those are the cards we changed, we revised. We have quite some time of Mars spending in Gemini, because the frames that Mars is leaving Gemini with are probably going to be what we have. The social media platforms that we're leaving Mars and Gemini with, the type of transportation that we're leaving Mars and Gemini with, other than Uranus, Venus, Uranus and Taurus, are going to be what we have. And that's it. And for example, you can think about social media platforms. Gemini, Elon Musk's buy Twitter in a Mars in his Gemini house. And then Mars goes retrograde, and then Mars will go direct. If he still owns Twitter, and if he hasn't, the changes he's going to do to Twitter, this is the cards he will be left with, for better or for worse. And already there are things that are no longer relevant. The way we're doing social media. What are we using? Marketing in social media. People who do business, trade on social media. Many things are changing, some of them in our favor, some of them not so. When Mars leaves Gemini, that's what we have. That we're going to have to adapt ourselves. Now is, and during that time, we have a couple of times squares Neptune. So there are changes that we try to make that are going to be useless. There are battles that we try to win using the wrong frame, or our frame may be just, but it won't be the winner, even though we're right. Okay? Usually for something bigger. Usually for a bigger reason. there are technologies that we are inventing or using, and they're not going to be the winner. There are 3 times of that. So Neptune is kind of thinking about, somebody, you're playing a game of cards. Somebody is dealing the users, dealing the cards, dealing the cards, dealing the cards, and Neptune takes away this card, takes away this card, takes away this card. Well, someone is dealing, and then Neptune takes away this card. So certain cards that were dealt with are being taken away from the equation. That's the Neptune Mars. And right about, March, it's going to be the end of it. That's what it is. That's what you, and notice this little trickster is happening before the big O of frame wars and technology and social media and trade and digitizing things or solarizing things is going to hit, and that is Uranus. Ken is going to spend, probably 7 years. I didn't check exactly in Gemini. So we have Mars. You learn how to do, quick trade, quick words, quick dealing, quick framing, adaptation, this, that, and then comes the big O of unexpected changes. So this transit of Mars and an outer planet that takes away is the closest we can get to a Uranus in Gemini. And that's why we're having Mars for a millennia, what seems like I don't know how long, okay? For, you could have a baby in this time and give birth in Gemini, playing around with the direct, retrograde, direct with Neptune. Because what is Mars? Quick action, quick action, quick action, quick action. Reflecting a little bit, quick action. What is Neptune? Dissolution, taken away, loss. So Mars, Neptune, sudden loss, sudden gain. That's the closest to Uranus. Uranus moves here, poof, direct, not. Now you got this. Oh, but that one's gone. Oh, but this one is here. Oh, but that one is gone. Think of 7 years of that. Now we're just having 7 months of that. We're heading for 7 years of that. All the while, Neptune is going to be in a Mars-ruled sign for a while, longer than Uranus, but then, there's going to be some time we're heading towards. And Pluto in an air sign, okay? So Pluto is going to be trining this Uranus. Big time for humanity. And some of us, maybe a lot of us, maybe all of us, are actually looking to see when will Mars turn to Cancer. I've seen posts about Mars entering Cancer like a couple of weeks ago. And my first reaction was, thinking of Mars in Cancer, it's so Mars in Gemini. And Mars is in its fall in Cancer. It's in its fall. What are people looking? People are looking forward to Mars entering its fall sign. Not realizing that this is only the foreplay for Uranus in Gemini, while Neptune is in Aries. Okay? So, the good news is Mars is entering, Cancer in around March. Yes, Don't get used to it. The best simulation of what Uranus in Gemini is going to look like is having Mars going through Gemini while being squared by Neptune. This is the best simulation we can get for what an actual Uranus in Gemini is going to look like. So pay attention to that. We couldn't get closer to the truth. What we're experiencing now for 7 months, we're going to experience for 7 years. And Mercury moves fast. It's going to go through this Uranus thingy many times in the 7 years. Going to conjunct it, you know. It's not Saturn, for good and for bad. So things in your Gemini house are about to be sped up. You have the 7 months, then you have what seems to be like 2 years off. No, it's not. You're going to have this activated and that activated, and Mars was a part of the Taurus Scorpio eclipse, as Mars is going to be a part of the Aries Libra eclipse. So you're not leaving this all too much, but then you're going to have 7 years, at least 7 years of Uranus in your Gemini house, and there's nothing you can do about that. And so you will open this time of Uranus there after with a part of it has been set by March. Will be, a part of the games. Which rules you still don't know yet. You can speculate on that, and what you can speculate on is the planet of unexpected sudden changes and revolutions entering the domain of sudden adaptations and flips of opinions, and something that you can't rely on. Good luck! This rule in trades, transportation, communication, technology, nervous system. Enjoy your time in space. So yeah, that's what we're being shown here, and I think it's not talked about enough. And I think a lot of people are looking forward to Mars leaving Gemini. And that I think we definitely need to change our approach to that, because this is not an effect. These 7 months are foreplay to something. They're not the finalization of something. Just like the 7 or 9 months that Mars was in Aries, and we had the Mars were a preparation heading there, and then for Neptune. So, and especially, when we think about having a personal planet staying for a while in a sign, it's about to prepare us for the outer planets doing something. It's not something that we say, oh, Mars has left Aries. Oh, goodness gracious. Thanks God, Mars has left Aries. That was the foreplay. So, that's basically why I was being told to talk about this particular transit. And for those who do not know me, I'm Talishir on Twitter. Meanwhile, because I tried a trick, I saw Elon Musk use the eggplant on he fired, 2 employees, many employees, and then he just posted it like, he fired employees, which is a dick move. Pardon my French. But then not only that's a dick move, he also added the eggplant and the water emojis, which is a dick move when you think about it. And then I said, okay, let's try to block Elon Musk in his network and see what happens. I didn't do anything, I didn't tag him, I just blocked him. and I don't know what will happen with Twitter, so I might no longer be on Twitter, um, which can happen. And I'm Shirley Youngblood on Instagram. I'm Shirley Tally Youngblood on Facebook, and that can be a good time to remind that I also have a Facebook account, which usually I used to write in Hebrew. But if you do want to reach me, then there is a Facebook account, and it's Shirley Tally Youngblood, and I do readings right now because I'm a one-person show. It is $50 because I don't have to pay anyone. If I will have to pay anyone, it's going to go up, 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 but then I'll marketing to back it up. So if you like what I do and if you think that you could benefit from me and you want a reading, that's your chance to get a reading at affordable cost. I will as my plan is to keep my business model affordable, so I'll have fully subsidized versus fully paid readings. So I don't want people to be priced out if I'm someone who could benefit them, but I also need to get paid. But that would make my very expensive because they have to make up for not only the reading that I give for free, but also the time that I need to allocate to do that. Um, and that's just something that will happen you know, if it's divinely guided for me to pursue on with that business and be successful. So that is as to my reading. This is not a hurry up and buy my readings. If you think you can benefit from me, then you know that and you can contact me. And if not, then that's okay. Note that on Facebook, I do not see messages from people who are not my friends. So that's something you might want to take into account, or DM me on, Messenger, on Instagram. I wonder what interesting new social media platforms will be in the coming time. For a while to venture into something that's new and beneficial. I'll hope to see that happening. Bye bye.